I always wanted to start my story like you hear it in the radio. It was a cold and rainy night, filled with some soft jazz, hinted with the smell of cheap counterfeit booze. But you know what? It was a complete crapstorm from the very beginning. There was no Louis Broke in fancy crimson dress with legs for days, and with a femme fatale attitude. And neither me as hardboiled or even sane enough to make my yapping cell. I worked for the Massachusetts State Investigation Bureau in a special task force whose aim was to locate zealous nutjobs who turned their back on the legal and privileged deities, craving the blessing of some cosmic whatnots and evil mumbo-jumbo. Also called the Department of Kiss Your Promotion Goodbye. I was a detective there, a pretty good one actually, and I didn't care about the internal politics or how dumb and needless my dear bully colleagues thought my department was. I wanted to prove myself worthy. I checked and reopened all the cold cases where there was anything unusual. Went through a crap ton of missing persons, museum or art gallery heists, vandalism, and of course through all those bloody murders. Everything. And as I read and reread and freaking read again all those damned files, I started to realize a pattern between them. Nothing obvious, just little symbolics here and there, some occurrent items, works of art, or some persons of interest appearing in more different cases, sometimes even as possible perpetrators, and later as ice-cold mangled victims. As I went deeper in my investigation, I started to feel that sometimes even my boss was trying to block me. I found some cases where it wasn't logical why they didn't solve it already. Boring, easy cases with obvious solutions. So my paranoia kicked in, silencing my common sense, and I went full rogue. This is a story of my final investigation. The story when I maybe saved mankind while losing all my marbles. Listen carefully. This is your last chance. Cultistorm is a story-driven cooperative adventure game where you and your fellow investigators try to stop the evil cults from finishing the ritual by sealing down all possible dimension gates in Arkham region. You have to use your deck of cards and your unique abilities to fight and support the other players. Every round of the game is divided into 6 phases, showing when new enemies arrive, or terrible events take effect, or when you can prepare yourself for the upcoming battles. While you try to seal the gates, you can let the cultists roam the area freely, and you have to stop all cosmic terror that would ruin our realm while your very own sanity is at stake. The danger is pretty real, so let me show you how to set up the game, and then let's learn how to play. Once you assemble the game board, choose 5 random location cards and put them on their designated place. Place a cultist die on each location card. Assemble the cultist deck, determined by the player number. Shuffle the cultist deck and draw 1 cultist for each of the locations. Place the cultist marker on a location card, which is marked as the starting location. Every player chooses an investigator. Player may choose their own character after deciding together with the other players, but they can also decide to draw a random character. The player takes their character board, a plastic figure. Finally, they should take the 2 target markers in their own color. Each investigator has a unique action card deck. Shuffle the deck and place it next to your character board. Choose a starting item. Shuffle the item deck and give each investigator 2 random item cards. The investigators choose 1 card they would like to keep as starting equipment, and they place the other card at the bottom of the item deck. Place the following things next to the board: the trophy tokens, the insanity tokens, gate seal cards and tokens, the terror crystals, the location activation markers. Place all the investigator dice in an easily accessible place, then place on the board the amount of dice corresponding to the number of the investigators. Prepare the cards of the Great Old Ones. Sort out the Great Old Ones of the first and second wave. Set up the terror circle with the use of the terror cards. Prepare the terror and endgame cards and shuffle the 2 decks separately. Starting from the shield symbol on the board, drawing from the top of the deck, place 1 face down card on every card place. Put an endgame terror card at the last location. And finally, put the terror marker and the crystal on the starting location's terror card. Starting from the oldest player and going clockwise, every player places their investigator miniature to their starting location. After all that, the board should look like this. Have you ever met anyone with serious mental health issues? And I don't mean guys with small quirks, real pathological psychopaths without the faintest light of common sense in them. These Satanist wacos are freaking deranged. I once met one who carved his own skin with his own nails, laughing all the while. I learned the word autofake thanks to him. Let me tell you, it was one of my least favorite learning experiences. The worst is that most of the times you don't even realize they're about and watching you. Anyone can be a cultist. The smiling neighbor at the end of the hall, your always well-dressed boss, the preacher you confessed your complete naughty list, or sometimes even your own loved ones living with you. Oh, Martha. Every round starts with a cultist phase. In this, we prepare the board with new arriving enemies, and the existing great old ones getting stronger. Also, we allocate new random symbols to each locations. At the beginning of the cultist phase, you move the cultist marker 5 spaces depending on the number of players in clockwise direction, from location to location. Apart from the starting location, you play a new cultist card from his deck on every location the marker affected. If there is the 4th cultist on one location, they will spawn a Great Old One. The type of the cultist determines which Great Old One will be summoned. If there is any Great Old One from the previous round in play, they devour the cultist directly beneath them. Note that you should position the devoured cultist in such manner that you can see its class symbol, because the Great Old One gets more powerful by it. If there is no cultist to devour, the Great Old One steps through the shroud and you lose the game. A location can be in a special state. It can be sealed. If it's sealed, that means no Great Old One can appear on it. On a sealed location, the 4th cultist doesn't trigger the arrival of the Great Old One. The final step in this phase is to roll with the cultist dice one by one and place them in their place. In the refreshing phase, we will look at the board state and ready ourselves for the upcoming events. Once you see what lies ahead, you have a choice to discard capped cards from the previous round. And after that, you draw up to 4 cards. We roll with the investigator dice. In the terror phase, you will move the terror marker around, possibly triggering special events. Advance the terror marker once and add the terror crystal to an empty red slot. If by that move you will fill up the possible slots, you turn the card and read the text on it. If by any chance you have to move the marker more than one space, you put a crystal at every reached terror card and reveal all filled up cards in order. Whenever in the game the terror marker moves past the shield location marker, the player can activate a location action by placing the altar on it. You can choose any of the location to activate, there is no order to it. No one knew what happened, but the city was silenced in an instant. The streets were cleared out, there was just nobody. No shambling drunkards, no marching coppers, not even clattering hobos. Just no one. Sourceless chilling breeze runs through the streets, dropping the temperature degree by degree. Shutters were slammed without people realized why they did it. People like rats. They escape from sinking ship and they don't even notice their own panic reaction. Stupid, fortunate idiots. The dirty streetlights blinked a couple of times, then they all went out. I was there, standing in the chilling darkness with my ragtag crew of unfortunates, who joined me in my crazy crusade, waiting for something to happen. After a couple of minutes, we heard some monotonic rumble from the docks. Chanting. And it was getting louder and louder. The ritual started. We had to prepare ourselves to our next encounter. There are 8 different actions the player can choose from, and you can take as many as you wish in any combination. There is no turn order, the group should discuss what is the best course of action to take. Every investigator can take only up to 1 investigator die from the supply. There is a white symbol on all of them. When you decide to take it, you immediately have to turn it to the side of your choice. In most cases, if a die enters the game as a result of a support action, it leaves the game after the turn. You can move anywhere between any locations. The first movement that you make is free. After that, you can move any number of times, but every time you will get a penalty insanity. If you are on a location, you can leave any number of matching trophies there. You can use action provided by activated location cards. For that, you have to be on that location. Your investigator cards have special symbols on them. For each magnifying glass, you can reveal an item card. If you want, you can keep one item. You do not need to use all of your magnifying glass icons you have. You can reveal less cards. If you draw an event card, you must read the text out loud and apply its effects. An investigator can have up to 2 item cards at their disposal. Each investigator can research only once per round. Investigators on the same location can freely give each other items or exchange them, but you cannot give trophies away. To play a support card, you select a card and target a fellow investigator. Play the card in front of her, even if you two are not on the same location. For every support card you play, you get an insanity token and also draw a new card from your own deck. Some support effects carried out immediately, but the ones with the freeze icon have an effect on the combat phase. There are some other special icons that I'm going to talk about. We already mentioned the magnifying glass. There's the important pentagram icon, which represents your own personal cards in your deck unique to your investigator. The benefit of them when you play them, you won't gain insanity. The last icon is the stop icon. After you play a card with it, you cannot draw a new one. Every investigator can have up to 4 insanity tokens. If for whatever reason you get a 5th, your investigator gone insane and you lose the game. As you progress through the game, your investigator can have better abilities if you develop her. To take this action you need trophies. For the first level you need any one, but for the second and third you will need 2 identical. And you unlock unique abilities with it, but you have to pay the price. You can also choose a gate seal card. It will be needed to close the gates. You can use the target marker to target a cultist to fight with in the combat phase. If you have the card, items, and the support of the players, you can even kill 2 cultists in the following phase. We knew it's gonna be a trap. We were neck deep in this investigation, we stepped on too many toes. We were prepared for the ambush. The first cultist who bum rushed me flinged the woodcutter's axe above her head to chop mine off. But she was a bit overconfident. She thought she's gonna have an easy time, but I had my trusty old brass knuckles with me, ready for smash some faces. How sad. But the second one almost got me. He came with some dirty meat hooks in his hand, and he kicked my leg out, and was about to butcher me up for good. When my mate Simmons shot one, I put a nice big hole just above his bloodlusted eye, spilling some grey matter on the concrete. It was pretty well timed, but we were not prepared to face that thing. To understand how combat works, first I have to talk about the enemies. They can be in melee range or far away, and they can have 3, 4, 5 occult symbols, or in case of Great Old Ones even more. These represent how hard it is to defeat them. Your job is to meet those symbols with your investigator cards, your abilities, items, investigator die, or the support you got in the preparation phase. Let me show you how you determine the power of a cultist. 3 symbols. If you roll blank with the cultist die and the cultist class symbol is not the same as that of a location, the cultist is only protected by the symbol of their own card. Nothing is added to those symbols. 4 symbols. 3 on the cultist card, plus 1 on the cultist die. However, the cultist class symbol is not identical to the location symbol. Or, the class symbol is identical with that of the location, but you have rolled a blank. 5 symbols. 3 on the cultist card, the cultist symbol is identical to that of the location, plus we didn't roll blank with the cultist die. If you defeat a cultist, you gain a trophy matching to its class symbol. Against Great Old Ones, you have to meet the class icons of the devoured cultists as well, and they always automatically get the location symbol. The Great Old One can be only engaged when it is in melee range. When attacking a Great Old One, you gain an insanity. After you defeat a Great Old One, you automatically seal that location, bringing you closer to victory. To win the game, the investigators need to seal all the locations in play. Sealing a location has 2 conditions. First, the investigators need to collect as many trophy markers as there are players. You can use trophies from your collection, or from the previously placed ones. The trophies you place on a location cannot be taken back. After sealing the location, place the seal card on the location and put the trophies back in the supply. If you seal an empty location, nothing bad happens. If, however, there are any cultists there, you get as many insanity tokens as there are cultists on that location. You cannot seal a location with a Great Old One. As you can see, Cultistorm is a more challenging game with exciting choices and high player interaction. If the Kickstarter campaign goes well, the game's already impressive variability will highly increase, thanks to the more than 10 expansion modules excluding the narrative playstyle. Do you think you can save mankind from any cosmic terror? Prove it! Seal all the gates and stand still in the raging Cultistorm. We started to cry when we broke the final circle around the altar. The blood of that poor devil accused us drop by drop, telling that no matter what we just stopped, we were too late. Jessica screamed and cursed so loud, I still can feel her pain. Her sobbing still echoing in my mind whenever I close my eyes. I haven't had a good night's sleep since then. We burned down the old house with all the filth and taint inside. We left the corpses there and made the flames cleanse them. They called it a freaking accident in the news next day. The charred corpses were poor victims and not monstrous murderers. I quit that week. No severance pay, nothing. I was just vegetating in the last couple of months. Had some part-time job, mostly physical jobs where I don't need to be sober, where I don't have to think. I saved this freaking world, but all I want is a little silence. Lord, I'm tired.